Welcome to the Mid-Year TADS Awards for Tokyo 2021, the awards presentation ceremony. This is the world's first international awards for tokenized assets and digital securities, and this is proudly sponsored by Wave Financial. Please welcome Mr. Samson Lee, founder and CEO of Point Street Partners and chairman of the organizing committee of TADS Awards.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be speaking here tonight. TADS Awards stand for Tokenized Asset and Digitized Securities Awards. This is an area of tremendous growth and opportunity. The World Economic Forum forecasts that by 2027, 10% of world GDP will be tokenized. Estimated market capitalization of $24 trillion. Tokenized asset and digitized securities will be the next big wave of financial market that is about to go through exponential growth in the coming years. TADS Awards is the world's first annual international awards for tokenized assets and digitized securities sectors, gathering individuals and businesses from around the world to share the energy that tokenization brings to financial markets. TADS Awards celebrate this industry by recognizing and honoring significant contribution and distinguished achievements worldwide. TADS Awards 2020 was successfully launched last year with strong support from many industry leaders and key ecosystem drivers from over 16 countries, and has received very good response feedback globally. Since the TADS market has gained much stronger momentum globally this year, I am sure the second year of TADS Awards will make an even better event and larger impact in the industry. To keep abreast of market trends, we have introduced dynamic new elements to the second year TADS Awards, including NFT Tokens Awards, NFT Platform Awards, and Rising Star Awards. In the recent years, we are very impressed of the positive development in the tokenized asset and digitized securities sector in Japan. For TADS Awards 2021, we are delighted to host a special mid-year awards in Tokyo. Thank you for the great support from a very special committee for TADS Awards 2021 mid-year Tokyo event, including representatives from Accenture, Deloitte, IBM, SBI, and Securitize. There are two category awards, namely Best of Class TADS Awards, which will be given out to the issuer of tokenized asset and digitized securities, and also the Ecosystem Excellence Awards, which will be given out to the technology solution provider along the value chain of the industry. We are delighted to have two winners from the two categories. Winners from mid-year awards will automatically be qualified as finalists in the year-end awards that will be hosted later in November 2021 in Hong Kong. Without further delay, TADS Awards 2021 Mid-Year Tokyo Award Presentation Ceremony will begin.
Now I would like to introduce Eiji Kobayashi, the CEO of Securitize Japan. He's going to make a keynote presentation on tokens and securitization in Japan.
Thank you for your introduction, James. My name is Kobayashi of Securitize. Nice to meet you all. So for this time, TADS Awards. First, I would like to take about 15 minutes to have my talk, and I really appreciate this opportunity. So today, including the initiative in overseas, and I'm going to talk about the STO situation in Japan, and also for the future plans about the STO. I want to talk and share with you. I have some PowerPoint slides, and I want to share some information with you. So briefly, let me introduce myself. I received the education in the US and went to Brown University and also went to business school in University of Chicago. And after that, immediately after that, I worked for the investment bank, Merrill Lynch in the US. That is my background. And after that, in New York, I've been associating as a deal for the investment bank in New York. And after that, I came back to Japan and the large investment bank and global bank, and the also dealing with the payment such as American Express. And as for Securitize, it's been about 1 year and a half I've been working. And as for blockchain, relatively new to me since I joined Securitize. I prepare something like this for slides, but for most of you as audience today have already have enough knowledge about STO. So I won't take a lot of time talking about what is STO, but rather I want to talk about some use cases as examples. So basically, as it says, that any securities or any asset that not only securities, but any rights can be tokenized. And that is a major point for STO. And what we can think of is like a real estate. And in Japan as well and overseas, there are many use cases for real estate. And that is something we can think about first. But of course, securities and trust, the equity, REIT, and also the private placement market, in some cases, derivative, and arts and others as category. And overseas, there are already movies and music creators that people can invest. That is a scheme, and also wine, whiskey, and Japanese sake. And it's not written on this page, but commodity project itself that can be also become STO. So almost anything can be tokenized, and we can see a lot of advantage by tokenization. So from now, it might sound advertisement or something, but for Securitize, about launched in 2017, and in the US, it's the first company in the US as well. And looking at the situation of STO through Securitize is one of the ways. And I myself also understand how it is like that. About 3.5 years ago was launched, and it's been for the first 1 year, the blockchain capital and Spice, the STO were completed. And for blockchain and venture companies for both. And we started with them. And after 3.5 years, and I have about 100, we have 150 companies, and we have fast growth of the company. And I'm showing the logos of those clients, companies, the venture companies, blockchain companies starting, and it has been spread to many companies. For example, the green logo CEO, that's an equity research company, and they did the fundraising and the lottery, as I said. Also started this tokenization and current fabric. They are the music, downloading music, and they're seeing the trend, tracking the trend of the consumers. And the consumers themselves spend about 50 or 60,000 yen or so. That is a very interesting project. And they are also SDO and refund shares, counterpoint. They are the sport teams and athletes are tokenized. And Leveler, and there's investment for the movies. And they are the major companies in the US for crypto wallet. And 150 companies, not only the number, but the category and industry has been spread. And the third point is that those major companies also making an entry. The SMTV in Japan right now, they also doing the tokenization. And those major companies are actually working for those SDO and tokenization. That is also the trend. And also securitize 150 plus companies as well, and the issuers and investors, the about 300,000 investors, and it has been increasing rapidly for the 3.5 years. And during this time, that because we have those experience, we have a quite complete system, and we can provide those use cases. As for Securitize itself, we provide platform, and first, as transfer agent, then we register SEC at the first in digital, and we completed 2.5 years ago, and then we acquire and make an entry. And this year, Securitize Capital as crypto asset, some fund are making investment. So as from platform provider, using crypto asset, and in Japan, like a security, just like a security company is expanding in Japan. That is an interesting trend. And as for Securitize, many major companies in Japan are investing on a company, and we are sharing a lot of information with each other. And what we're doing in Japan is that one of them is SMTB, and we are doing the SDO for the trust security issuance. And another thing is that we see the rating or SDO, that is a milestone deal, we can say. And another thing is a LIFO. Last year in August, and we launched a platform, the SDO, and another project is that in Hayama in Japan, and we are also helping the fundraising to utilize the old unused house, unoccupied house. And then after that, they have the model to transfer. And as I mentioned before, the security token itself, the range of the usage has been expanded. It is a really good example to see. And another thing is that entity data, SBI digital asset holdings, the working together for the production, product development, and we have partnership and major security company and real estate company start POC and consortium of major companies and joining those projects or conferences. And in Japan as well, working together with all those companies and clients, we'll be making efforts. And how we can be useful in Japan. So during this presentation of 15 minutes today, what I can do today is I want to share with you about this deal of Exodus that happened in April this year and completed recently. And in this is also the quite big milestone in STO. Exodus, this company, maybe you might know, it is the US leading provider for wallet or digital asset in the US, and they have many users. And it's been 5 or 6 years was launched. And once in 2 weeks or so, they add function and update, and they think about UX and UI, highly evaluated. And about more than 500 digital assets are supported, and many users are utilizing this. And this company, Regulation A, this is the law in the US, it has a complete IPO and about 75 million. That's the upper limit of US dollars of the fundraising was completed. So they have about new 700 investors, and they are not using a security company at all. Mainly targeting the existing customers of Exodus. But this is a huge deal, and there's so many big numbers of investors. But without using security company, the fundraising like this, that was really almost impossible before, but actually they did it in short term. And that we're seeing the new future now. So for this one, as a first case, we are focusing on about this use case, and we're seeing that this kind of case would happen in Japan in the near future. So the Exodus, as an example, what we can see from here is that this is just some overview and summary. So advantage of STO is that the investors and issuers can be connected directly through technology. So that not only be connected, but including the compliance and safety. And Exodus utilized this advantage. And probably this is the future of the SPO, I think. And I think even the private placement market and capital market will be settled. And the trend will be different from now. And those new plans are already happening in the US. So how we achieve these in Japan is one of the biggest challenge for us. And of course, we have some challenges, and I shared with you on the right-hand side. For example, the market, stable coin, and also regulation support. And another one is public blockchain versus permission blockchain. And most of them are not public. But as a trend, we have to think about public blockchain more from now, and the decentralization and the higher security. And in Japan, the private capital market and it is said a private placement market not settled so much in Japan. And these issues will be solved for sure. And thinking about the advantage of STO, that is investors and issuance can be connected directly. is something what we really want to do in Japan from now. And then for both investors and insurance will enjoy the advantage even more from now. And in the capital market in Japan for the past 30 years, it's actually really not so good, to be honest. And from 30 years from now, that we will not repeat the same thing from now. And I think this is a great opportunity for us. And in Japan, that not only the private capital market, but the unicorn companies will be thought from us. So I really hope that unicorn companies will emerge in Japan. And the third point is that Japan in this time zone in Asia Pacific region, Japan will be the hub. And using the trend of SEO, I think that this is really possible. And by doing this, working for these challenges, not only the private companies that also, but the public sector, that will be a very important part for us. And I hope that this will be the good timing for us. So thank you very much for your attention. That is all for me.
I'd now like to introduce Benjamin Tsai. He's the CEO of Wave Financial, based in Los Angeles. Wave Financial is also a key sponsor of TADS Awards 2021. So Benjamin, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for having me deliver a short keynote message for the TADS 2021 Mid-Year Awards. As a quick introduction, my name is Benjamin Tsai, and I am the president and managing partner at Wave Financial. My background is actually in traditional finance, and I've spent a lot of time in Japan as part of Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and also as a part of AllianceBernstein in Japan. I would like to get in a little bit of an introduction to Wave Financial, which is something that we have created in the past 3 years. We are an SEC registered investment advisor with over $500 million of assets under management. We're focused purely on blockchain and cryptocurrencies investment, and we have 2 areas of business: asset management and wealth management. On the asset management side, we launched a tokenized Kentucky Whiskey Fund, which won the TADS Best in Class Asset-Backed Token Award at the Hong Kong Blockchain Week last year. And it is this award that brings us really close to the TADS Awards, which we are very excited to work with. Specifically to the project, we decided that we were going to take on a private equity fund and also tokenize it to create a liquid market for the private equity fund. This is something we thought that would be very exciting for the clients. And we thought that we would try to find the best asset class we can to put within the private equity fund. We actually looked at a lot of different alternatives. We looked at clean water, carbon credit. We looked at real estate. We looked at Picassos. We even looked at putting in Japanese racehorses as requested by one of our corporate clients in Japan. In the end, we went with Kentucky whiskey because we're very excited by the return profile of Kentucky whiskey. We've noticed that by buying freshly made barrels made for us in Kentucky, we're able to generate a 3 to 5x return over 5 years. And that is a very attractive return profile that we think we could put in a private equity fund. And that to us is very, very attractive from a very stable asset perspective. And at the same time, the returns should be very exciting for clients. One interesting thing with regards to these types of private equity fund is that typically there's no secondary market for these funds. As in, once an investor is invested, the investor is basically in the fund until the maturity. But we've decided to tokenize it so that we can create a liquid market of whiskey tokens, which clients can trade in and out of so that they can reduce or increase their exposure to this interesting asset class. So we launched this fund last year and we raised about $3 million for this. And we bought 2,700 barrels of Kentucky whiskey, which is aging right now. And we look forward to disposing of these barrels in about 4 to 6 years and returning that money to the client. In the meantime, we're in the process of tokenizing it and listing these tokens on a security token exchange, which will create a potentially a liquid market for these tokens and for this fund. This is something we think is very exciting, and this is something that we think is a great progress in terms of digital assets, and that's something that we're pursuing. Separate from that, we're currently in the process of launching the 2021 version of this fund, and we're happy to take any questions if there's anything, if there are any interest from people who are listening. I believe that this asset class and tokenization of assets in general is extremely exciting in the sense that this creates a lot of opportunity to access illiquid assets or assets that require a long holding period, and that would give investors a lot of comfort in knowing that they're able to generate liquidity or create liquidity as necessary to get out of their investments. As I mentioned before, we have looked at a number of different asset classes such as real estate and so forth, and these things are very interesting. I'm personally an investor in real estate here in Southern California, and I understand that the liquidity aspect of this business is always very difficult. We have projects that are developmental projects that last a number of years, or we have rental projects where we're holding through a longer period of hold period. And that period of time, there is no liquidity for the clients. By looking at and by taking advantage of the tokenization process, there is a possibility for us to have access to this market. As I mentioned before, I have had experience living in Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore through my finance career of 15 years in Asia. And in that market, we have seen a lot of different assets that could be very interesting for tokenization. And this is something that we're looking forward to exploring with our clients and with everybody in the industry. It is a growing industry, and we're very excited by it. And we believe that the TADS Award is a great way to look at rewarding, to look at highlighting the success in this field. Another area that's actually becoming an area of interest, that's something that we're seeing in the market, is the advent of NFTs, officially known as non-fungible tokens, but very commonly known just as NFTs. NFTs are digital representations of art and collectibles and so forth that have a blockchain attached to them. By having a blockchain token attached to them, they make these objects non-fungible, and therefore there's a way to prove the ownership of these tokens and also these digital objects. And that makes it very interesting. Because of characteristics relating to the blockchain ecosystem, actually, there are other features that can be added towards the NFTs that make it very unique compared to previous, iterations of ownership of art and digital assets and so forth. As an example, we're seeing right now of an implementation which seems very obvious after the fact, but is very innovative, is the fact that people are able to buy NFT and able to buy art. And as there are subsequent trades or subsequent exchanges of it, the original artist is actually getting paid a percentage of that transaction fee. It's a tax on transaction, but it benefits the original artist, which is very difficult to do in traditional art. Imagine the amount of residuals that someone like Picasso could potentially receive after he's created so much art and they've changed hands very often. So that's certainly something interesting we're seeing. We're also seeing better traction of credit for the use of arts and so forth. And this is something that had always been previously a problem with, for example, the music industry, where it's difficult to track the usage or the consumption of the content and attributing revenue to it. By moving on to the blockchain, there's been a bit of ease on that. The blockchain also provides exposure on the NFT side, not only in terms of ownership and crediting for trading. There's an advent of a lot more digital objects where NFTs become usable, for the owners of these objects. As an example, there could be a discussion on using the objects as representations of people in what is called the metaverse, kind of in the virtual world. And that system and that ecosystem, that environment is starting to be built. There are a number of ecosystems that are coming up, and there are a number of NFT projects and NFT objects that can exist in these ecosystems. I've heard about real estate being bought and sold within those ecosystems. They're all virtual. I've heard about houses being sold within that real estate space that are digitally designed and bought and sold. And we have we've seen also different objects. For example, very recently I've been reading about an object that one of the companies that we know, Genies. They've actually created a Gucci and North Face branded digital jacket as an NFT for use in the virtual space. Now, Gucci and North Face actually collaborate and create real jackets in real life. There's a kind of a co-branded effort that they have. But to have a digital object, digital version of that in the kind of virtual world is also very exciting. So we're looking at really the usage factor. As this business grows, we're actually seeing, a significant increase in interest, and the value of these transactions are going up quite significantly. So there's an artist named Beeple. He actually sold his art for $69 million through Christie's auction house this year. This has set a record for NFTs, and it's also set a record for art from a living artist. I believe he's now in the top 5 living artists in terms of producing high-valued art. All of that is very exciting, and it's developing a lot of growth. Because of this, we're going to create an NFT fund, which will be investing in this space also. Once again, we would love to collaborate with others in this space in terms of this project that we're pursuing. So we look forward to having further conversation with all of you. So all in all, I'm very excited with regards to tokenized assets and digitized securities. And I look forward to continuing working with the TADS Awards organization to promote all the things that we do. And I believe that there are a lot more great technology applications and assets of things to come, which could not only be investable, but also make more efficient markets for all of us. I'll wrap up here, and I look forward to the development of this world. Thank you.
And now we have a panel discussion with 4 very distinguished panelists. We have Eiji Kobayashi of Securitize Japan, who's going to be the moderator. We also have David Ogilvy of SBI Japan. Also Tomohiro Yamaguchi of Deloitte, and Samson Lee of Coin Street Partners.
My name is Eiji Kobayashi. I'm heading up the Securitize Japan's business. And I also like to welcome the panelists to this session, and also thank the TADS Award for this opportunity as well. Maybe before we start, I think it's good thing that people introduce himself. I'd like to perhaps start with David. David, would you like to kick off?
My name's David Ogilvy. I work at SPI Security Solutions based here in Tokyo. Super high-level introduction to SPI. SPI as an organization has been at the forefront of digital technologies for a very long time. They were an early builder of online securities brokerage, and we have the largest online securities business by number of accounts in Japan. In the digital asset space, we have interests in a number of companies, as well as owning a virtual currency exchange. And with our group in Security Solutions, we're focused on building of digital asset infrastructure from exchange infrastructure, wallet infrastructure, and we're obviously very heavily invested in helping to move the token industry forward, both in Japan and globally.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, maybe Sam, you want to take a cut?
Hi, everyone. My name is Samson Lee. People call me Sam. I'm the founder and CEO of Coin Street Partners. Constreet is a professional consulting firm in the asset tokenization and digital asset space. We have been operating in multiple countries and in different scope. For example, in US, we have our broker-dealer firms. So we are doing more in terms of the whole tokenization process, structuring, distribution, where in other countries depends on the compliance status. But in general, we offer end-to-end solution from structuring to marketing, distribution, and also post-issuing service as well. We have announced initiative of launching STO exchange in multiple jurisdictions. So very excited to be here today. On my other hand, I'm also a committee of the TADS Awards. TADS Awards is the second year this year. It's very exciting that we also hosting a midterm mid-year event in Tokyo just now, while we have the year-end award in November, end of this year. So we have seen a much stronger momentum this year in the whole industry compared to last year. Very excited to see many good projects, and also for this one midterm awards in Tokyo, very high quality nominees, and looking forward for some very good winners to be announced. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And then Kawaguchi-san at last. Thank you, and please.
Hi everyone, my name is Tom Kawaguchi. I work at Deloitte Tokyo and being part of the blockchain team at Deloitte Tokyo. Deloitte is a global leading advisory firm providing clients ranging from private businesses to a public organization in a variety of fields. And digitalization is becoming a very important topic for pretty much all of the clients. And STO, or security token offering, is our area of one of our focuses here in Japan. We are helping the ecosystem of STO thrive from not only business perspectives, but also from system and regulatory perspectives through some activities such as being parts of the major associations in relation to STO in Japan, such as JSTOA and JSTA. And I'm really excited to be here with you to discuss what's happening and what the STO industry in Japan and the Asia Pacific region will look like in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, before setting into the session, I'd like to spend a moment to set the tone of the discussion here. Maybe by going through what we have seen in the US. I'd like to use a slide which focuses on what Securitize has done. It's a bit like sales pitch, but please bear with me. Let me just share the screen. Okay, let me use this screen just to go through where we are in STO. So STO has actually started just like 3.5 years ago in the US, and Securitize has been a part of that. Since then, now we see about 150 clients using STO, and also 300,000 investors. It's actually a phenomenal growth in just in a matter of 3.5 years. It's more than double each year. So the number of stakeholders or participants into the market is actually growing very fast. And this trend is actually continuing. Not only numbers, if we look at the logos at the bottom of the slide, it's actually quite interesting to see that some of the early users of STOs are those who are familiar with blockchain and ventures and startups. like Spice and Blockchain Capital, one of early users of STOs, are pretty much in the very close areas, like what STO does itself. Starting with these companies, however, the use actually spread to a much broader issuers. Like CEO, for example, a Green Circle is a financial services provider. Lottery is a lottery provider. There are also companies which tokenized the professional basketball players and also sporting team as well. There are also players which are more on ad tech, and most recently film/movie financing and DeFi. And also a few months ago, we have done the first major public STO deal by Exodus. So not only numbers, a type of users are actually spread out as well. I also like to note that, as appears in other places as well, Securitas Japan has worked with SMTB, Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank, to do one of the first asset-backed STOs in Japan, and also credit ratings as well. This is another major step that STO is being used by a major financial institutions. And this is one of the first of the trend that many other large financial institutions, not only in Japan, but globally, are seriously considering STOs as well. So, as mentioned many times, numbers have been increasing, but at the same time, stakeholders has increased as well. So that is where we stand globally. And I like to probably bring this into where we stand in Japan and how the participants see the future of Japan STOs. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask around the views of the panelists about a few questions. The questions are, where do you think we stand in Japan on STO? What are the types of activities you see are active? And where do you think that we're heading for in the next few years? So maybe we ask David to kick off. Is that okay, David?
Thanks, AK. So I think Japan, being Japan, things always start slowly and then pick up pace rapidly over time. I think that we're seeing that in the STO space, where we're starting to see some infrastructure builds. There's work that SBI is doing on some exchange work as well. There's organizations Securitize. There are other competitors to Securitize that are in the market looking at how do we start tokenizing. We're starting to see some very early tokenization by some of the major names. Mitsui was one that we've seen relatively recently. And so as we see the legitimization and as we see the regulators develop comfort, which again always takes longer than people outside of Japan might expect, you would expect the pace of things to pick up relatively quickly. But I still think it'll take a little bit of time. There is a level of comfort from an issuance or regulatory and an investor standpoint that does take a little bit of time, and then people need to build the processes around that give them a level of comfort that look enough like everything else that they already do, which in many senses is no different to other jurisdictions.
Okay, thanks, David. Kaguchi-san, would you like to share your view?
Also think that STO in Japan just started and it's now in its infancy, so to speak. But at the same time, many organizations ranging from private and small startup companies to large and traditional major financial institutions tackling the STO activities, which will eventually vitalize the STO ecosystem at the end of the day. and I think we need some pieces to really make the STO helpful and effective to digitize the existing security businesses, such as the secondary markets, and also the user-friendly UI for key management and account management. And so we have some regulatory base on which we can technically issue and trade security tokens, but we also need some pieces which practically enable issuers and investors to effectively trade and issue, trade, and also store security tokens. And we have seen many achievements, and I'm expecting many more to come within this year.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Sam. Not necessarily Japan. If you could share your view on Asia as well, that would be great.
Yes, of course. Like I wouldn't say I know Japan market really well, but I can share a pretty interesting observation. Although I haven't been to Japan for almost 2 years now due to COVID, but pre-COVID days, I travel to Japan quite often, and because we used to run almost like a private investor dinner, right, in Tokyo for professional investor, funds and family office in a more traditional ways. When we used to visit more frequently, like back to your chart, right, where like 2018, 19, those days when we talk about STO is people don't have much clue about what we are trying to talk about. And as compared now from what I read, from all the activities, I think the growth is really amazing. And we really see great start and momentum now. I'm very impressed. I'm looking forward to be able to visit again and really see what's going on the ground. And outside of Japan, of course, we have seen a strong momentum for STO development. Not to mention about US, they are leading the game, but actually in Asia as well, right? As we have seen from where I came from in Hong Kong, the government, the regulator official granted the first STO exchange license last year. And now we also have a very clear regulatory framework for both initial offering and secondary trading of STO. And many professional firms are coming in to try to play a role along the value chain. And of course, like with this environment, finally able to get the attention from the institutional investors, family office now really looking at this market seriously from both potential issuer and investor point of views. So it's very exciting to see all this happening in Hong Kong. And look further, I'm sure everyone aware of also a lot of development in Singapore, right? Very exciting in Singapore. The regulator already issued multiple secondary trading license. I think they are maybe more than 4 license exchange already. Right, and they have a very clear regulatory framework for custodian license, for even like a special license for stable coin, what they call the Payment Token Act, right? Because the way they see it is the stable coin is used for payment. So very healthy regulatory framework and very aggressive, and we see showing signs of success, at least on the early stage, because I have heard more and more companies now trying to set up in Singapore just to proceed in the digital asset, also crypto as well, kind of business. And of course, from the news, we might all pick up that recently one of the largest bank in Singapore, DBS, right? They officially announced the first STO issuing. I think it's a trial, definitely, because they issue $15 million worth of debt. To them, of course, it's a tiny number. And then it's interesting, the maturity date is only 6 months. And they're paying the deal, I think, 0.6% per annum, right? So you can see it's minimum return, but very short period of time, ideal for trial and experiment. You know, people buy. Of course, DBS have a very good credibility. They not worry about, you know, redemption, and try for 6 months, right? So I think this is very clever move. We would love to see how it develops.
Okay, it's great to hear that everyone see bright future of the STO in Japan and Asia as well. Maybe move on to the next subject. Okay, about the future, but perhaps slightly different perspective as well. So we saw in the US about 150 clients using STOs in a matter of 3.5 years. In Japan, STO go live about a year ago, May last year. It's been already a year. So 2 to 2.5 years left. So do you think that in Japan in 2 or 2.5 years, we're gonna see like 150 issuers or activities like in the US? Or if so, what are the kind of things that you'd like to see as a wish list for that to take place? So that's the kind of things that I want to hear views of the participants. If you could share your view, David, that would be great.
There's a couple of things that are interesting to think about here. One is, how much is Japan going to look like the rest of the world? How much is Japan's evolution in the STO space going to look like the rest of the world? And how does that develop? We know that Japan tends to lag, and we know that Japan will tend to import parts of it that they like and parts of it, and potentially ignore other parts of it that may or may not, that may work in other places. So the Japan market, for historical reasons, tends to be a somewhat self-contained bubble. So from there you go, okay, so who wants to issue any sort of security in a tokenized way? So I don't, my personal feeling is the 150 number is a lot, and that could take time, but I think that if in 2 years, if we have 150 in 2 years, I think that'll be quite backloaded, as in it'll be quite close to the 2-year mark when that acceleration takes place. I think that 2022 we'll start to see some more pockets of things happening. Hopefully some more guidance from the regulator that gives people more genuine sort of comfort around recognition. And then in 2023, you would hope that you would start to see some genuine sort of acceleration. I don't know whether 150 is the right number or not. I think it'll depend on where the infrastructure is, and it'll depend on whether we can see enough significant companies in Japan giving it legitimacy, whether it be the mega banks in Japan, some of the other large potential issuers, and potentially probably with some of the foreign technology companies like Securitize coming in and really helping to make sure that the infrastructure works well, which will be important for all parts of the equation, from regulation through to the issuers through to the investors. We know that there's an enormous pool of cash in Japan, sitting in a lot of fairly low yielding asset, and that's been a thing here for a long time. And there has been a pivot by some investors over the last few years to try and increase that yield. And I think that if they can show yield in a way that's justifiable to their investment base, that part of the sort of the demand part of the curve will start to grow as well. But it has to happen in conjunction with everything else.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, Kawaguchi-san, your input is appreciated.
In my opinion, I think the number of issuers in the future will also depend on how much investors we actually can attract to the STO space. I mean, as I just said, there will need to be a secondary market in which investors can trade their own security tokens after the issuance. And also, there are some issues to be tackled from investors' perspective, such as the specified account for taxation, let's say. And I don't have an exact number in terms of the how many issuers will be in STO space, but basically, in my opinion, STO will transform the process of issuing and trading securities or tokens, to be more precise, tokens having some characteristics of existing traditional securities in a more efficient way, which will eventually enable much more people to issue and trade securities-like tokens in a different way from what we have done for existing traditional securities. If we succeed in that kind of transformation, then I'm confident that we will have much more issuers as well as investors, and that's so in a nutshell, we also need to take into account the perspectives of investors to actually stimulate the issuers, I mean, to come to the STO space and ecosystem.
Thank you. And Sam, again, from Asia perspective as well, too. So please go ahead.
So what I noticed, I want to share interesting observation as well. If we go back, you know, to ICO, right? Although it's completely different with STO, but sort of like an evolution of the industry, right? If you think about ICO days back in 2017, all the companies they went as far as they can, right? Go to all these smaller jurisdictions. Sometimes we never heard of, right? You know, and of course, like a lot go to like Malta, Estonia, you know, Mauritius, and you know, like very far away, just to get around the regulations and you know, just be innovative. But when we talk about STO, is all like if you look at the recent development and all that is all about coming back to the major financial centers. What I'm trying to say is STO, Digital Security Asset Organization, it is anchored on traditional finance, right? So all the major financial centers will have a chance and should be, continues to be a leaders in this space. Right? Not surprised we see now US. You haven't showed the breakdown in your chart, EK, but I'm not surprised out of that 130 STO project, maybe half or even more from US. Right? If we believe Wall Street is still the leader of the whole financial industry, they definitely leading the game. If this is the future and they see it, that's why they're running so fast. Right, so I think Japan, you know, being a financial center, international financial center, leaders of the financial industry globally, I think definitely a very significant role to play in the digital asset space, right? Digital securities moving forward. Of course, given if they do everything right, you know, like this, we know, like we have seen in the history, every time in the history, there's major change and transformation, the opportunity and challenge, right? If people do things right, they can, excel and take up the opportunity. But it's also a challenge point whether like people might make mistakes, right? So this is a crossroad now. I think it's very interesting. Not just Japan, same from Hong Kong as well. Like I sometimes like I try to get the message to the regulator, and this is the future, right? It's like when we talk about e-commerce. If people still remember back in the internet days, year 2000, .com, nobody cares about internet, right? People still think about e-commerce, the credit card risk and online shopping, things like that. But we know that's the future. And e-commerce cannot be separate from retailing. We see retailing doing e-commerce. I think same for finance, right? I don't think digital and crypto or tokenization, whatever you call it, is an isolated area. It's not isolated. It's all related and anchor on the traditional financial market as a foundation. So this will be very interesting time to plan together what to do ahead.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. Let me share my view. Right now, actually, I'm quite encouraged. 6 months ago, maybe I was not that much. The reason being that I see more and more institutions and companies are seriously interested in STOs. In Japan, as you may know, role of financial institutions, large ones, are probably more important than in the US. So these guys, fortunately, are very interested. And that means that when they're ready, they're going to bring in many issuers and issues and deals as well. On top of that, we see lots of activities or interest level, particularly among the real estate sectors. Like what we have done for LIFO and for Tokuho, many firms are actually started doing STOs as well. So these are very encouraging. And the question of do we reach 150 cases in 2 years? I'm actually quite encouraged that we see actually a very good chance. All right. So that was my view. And let's move on to the next agenda. So as Kawaguchi-san has pointed out, as interestingly, there's an agenda for secondary market. Everyone wants it, but no one knows when it becomes available. So the question here is, do you have any perspectives on this? David, SBI, I know, is very active in this area. And if you could share your view on the secondary market status and the future, that would be great.
Yes, on secondary markets and secondary liquidity, it's this horrible sort of cat and mouse situation. You need people to trade, but to trade you need liquidity. To have liquidity, you need to trade. So someone has to blink first in order to create secondary liquidity. So part of it is venue, and SPI is obviously very involved both with building a venue in Osaka, which will support this sort of secondary market trading, but also some of the work that we're doing with the SDX and building an exchange in Singapore will also support secondary market trading of STOs over time. The second part is finding liquidity partners and liquidity providers who you can partner with that will help to generate and sort of juice that market. Because once things start to trade, once there is some liquidity, people will trade. That happens in every market everywhere in the world. So you need to be at the point where you can issue and you're comfortable with the issuance and that part of the process works. And then you need to have venues where people are comfortable to execute secondary liquidity that they can find, liquidity on secondary markets. They can find someone to sit on the other side of a trade of the trade. And then you need a way to juice that by generating the initial liquidity to get that market to grease and move. So I think we're getting there, and I think that as this will continue to happen in parallel as people in the background, because the other part of it is as people see financial opportunity, people will start to participate, and that's when you'll start to see people who are there really to help generate liquidity, people who see investable opportunities in secondary market assets because they feel that they're undervalued or they're overvalued, and yeah, it'll grow from there. So really looking forward to watching that develop and hopefully being a participant in helping to drive that development.
Okay, thank you, David. Any views, Kawaguchi-san?
I think most of the companies or stakeholders within the STO ecosystem find secondary market one of the most important factors for the success of STO in Japan. And aside from each business's efforts, I would like to touch the industry-wide efforts of JSTOA. JSTOA has a committee for secondary market. Its exact name is the Committee for Vitalizing the Market of STO, but it's one of its main agenda will be secondary market, and I would imagine the participants of the JSTOA who are basically major financial institutions such as equity companies. And it's good to see that we will see some PTS here in Japan to be set up by SBI and some other companies. And on the other hand, we will also need to think of the way to differentiate STO and its secondary market from the traditional securities and its exchange, Tokyo Stock Exchange, to again attract investors and make them think, well, STO is very promising or helpful from investors' perspective, and we need to make them think of using the STO and its secondary market so that we can get the enough liquidity to the secondary market. So I think we will find a way anyway, and through both the efforts on the private side and on the, I don't say it's public, but maybe through the efforts of each single business and collaborative efforts of the industry.
Thanks. And Sam, again, I see lots of activities in the secondary market in Asia too. So if you could share that as well, that may be helpful to the audience here.
Okay. Well, yeah. I like to say, like, while, you know, for STO or digital securities, while there are a lot, we need to work with the existing financial system and compliance regulations. We shouldn't forget about the innovation side, right? Because when we think about security token and secondary trading, the way it works is all these securities actually now being issued on the blockchain, right? So if we use a traditional perspective of, say, stock market for say, right? Of course, like all the stock is traded locally on a local stock exchange, right? And the settlement is done on the exchange. It's just like Tokyo Stock Exchange, same for Hong Kong and Singapore and New York. From time to time, company might be able to do ADR listing, right? Multiple listing, like a Hong Kong shares list in New York, and you know, a Japan stock list in New York or NASDAQ and things like that. But you know, the process is pretty, you know, complicated and take a long time and high cost, right? But when we think about digital securities or securities issued on the blockchain, the secondary market or secondary trading venue or secondary exchange, a lot of them is essentially just order matching, right? Because the settlement of the security is done on the blockchain. It's not with the exchange, right? Think about it. If a security is issued in Ethereum, Ethereum blockchain is doing the settlement globally. So we actually have a perspective for all the issue STO from Japan, very easy for multiple listing in Singapore, US, and Hong Kong, and other places. So coming back to the local or any regional exchange, they are now facing global competition. But of course, at the same time, they will be able to access global opportunities too, right? Like exchange in Japan, license exchange, when they come alive, of course, they can compete for business from US and Hong Kong and Singapore being listed into Japan. Even the issue is not from Japan, and vice versa, right? So this is an interesting perspective, and I think we should also look at either from an issuer point of view, even for investor point of view, right? So in the future, the Japanese investor going to a Japan exchange might be able to find a lot of overseas issues, right? Which is good, because they will be access interesting investment opportunity from worldwide.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sam. Lastly, but a little bit, I share my view. The secondary market for security tokens is an evolution process in a sense. Okay, so far, no one has figured out the best model yet, and maybe not in the US either. So when you talk about liquidity, it means a lot of things. Let's start, let's a simple connect between a seller and buyer. If Alice and Bob somehow connect and do a trade, it's a liquidity, even without an exchange. Or the other end of the spectrum is that the STO is being listed in a major exchange, such as Tokyo Stock Exchange, and being traded. But it's expensive. So what is the best way to serve both investors and issuers best? There's no single smart person or anyone who knows the answer right now. So what's important here is that every possible models and new ideas are being tested live. And over time, stakeholders, investors, and issuers will select the better one. And through trial and error process, the model will converge into a few best practices. What's important here is that this process itself and the regulations allow this evolution process to play out in a fair and compliant fashion. So the new model will come out as a matter of trial and error. And I look forward to see that process and the best secondary market model coming through in Japan as well. All right, let's check the time. We may want to close the session in a few minutes. And I'd like to take this moment to ask each panelist to make concluding remarks on how we see the STO market developing in Japan in future. Just quickly, please. All right. Would you like to start, Kawaguchi-san, this time?
I think STO has begun as a way to transform the existing traditional security business, but I also would like to see some innovative and very new products which enable issuers or investors to enjoy not only financial but also non-financial kind of emotional benefits, like let's say a token which connects issuers and investors, or even holders, all the holders in a different way from existing traditional securities or financial products. as a bond or ticket for the ecosystem of the token holders. I would like to see something like that. And I think from regulatory perspectives, STO needed to start that way, but eventually I hope to see some innovative products like that as well. And in that regard, I like the IPO of INS.
Great, thanks, David.
Look, from my perspective, I think that this is coming in one way, shape, or form or another. I think that it'll take time, and I think what it'll look like from the outside is it'll look like it's happened really quite suddenly. I think the reality is there'll be many people and many organizations working away in the background to get this up and running, trying things, building infrastructure, having arguments with people, working with investors, working with issuers, working with the regulator. And so it'll be a community effort by people from both the traditional and non-traditional financial services sector that get this up and running. And I think when it gets up and running, I think it'll be very, very exciting. And for both issuers and investors, clearly this is the natural way that things should move over time. If you were going to build securities as a concept today from scratch, it would be digital. And clearly in line with the broader digitalization in Japan, I think that this will come as well. And so, yeah, just really looking forward to working with the people on this call and others around the industry over the next few years.
Thank you. And Sam.
Well, although STO is at its infancy, I think I can see it is definitely bring a major change to the way how companies going to raise funds and how investors going to invest. For example, in the current structure, we all know like IPO is very efficient, but more to the large companies, right? To the small and medium company, not as efficient, right? And there's still a lot of limitation to small and medium company how they raise fund, and doing global distribution is very inefficient. Full STO, we know there's new way they can do global distribution much easier, right? Much cost effective. On the other hand, from the investor point of view, now we all know a lot of the good opportunities, they are almost, quote unquote exclusive to a lot of like major funds, large PE VC funds, right? Smaller investors, they have no chance to get in at the early days for allocation, right? And smaller investor now, the way traditionally works is they put the money into the VC as limited partners, right? And lock it for a long time. But in the future, I think investor, they will have a lot of choice. Then they can actually select opportunity all over the world, right? At the early days, of course, have to go through a fully compliance way. And a lot of options and choice. So the way they invest will be also changing as well. So I'm very excited about the possibility in the futures.
Thank you. It's great then. And I actually agree, all of you, with you. So you have said much and not much left. But as my closing comment, I'd like to touch on a recent deal we have done for a company called Exodus, a leading crypto wallet provider in the US. We all know that beauty of STOs is that they directly connect issuers and investors. The question was that, can this be done on a large scale and perhaps public manner? And I think, here we got one. Exodus is the first fully tokenized IPO and raised $75 million and placed with 7,000 investors without underwriters. Now, a company like Exodus or anyone can do a public offering without any intermediary. And this is actually quite exciting for issuers and, of course, investors too. This is not limited to US, but applies to any markets and any cross-border and global markets as well. For example, STOs allow Japanese investors can directly invest in overseas deals like Exelas, for example. Exelas, unfortunately, is now not available for overseas investors now, but any other investment opportunities like this, it becomes available to investors in Japan and can be invested only in a few clicks. It's very exciting to see that these security tokens connect investors and issuers directly, and Japan can be, and I think should be a part of that innovation. Okay, well, that's how I feel. I'd like to thank all panelists to spend time with us today. I also like to thank the patience of the audience and also the opportunity by the TADS Awards organizing committee. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
We're ready to have the awards presented now. I'd like to again call upon Benjamin Tsai, the CEO of Wave Financial, and he's going to, first of all, introduce the winner of the Best of TADS category.
Congratulations to Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank for winning the Best of Class TADS Award for their innovative work on issuing the first STO as a trust with sign-off from the FSA, and also first with a credit rating from RNI.
First of all, let me introduce myself. I am a tech consultant of Securitize Japan. My name is Morita. This time, I'm delighted to receive this award thanks to the collaborative project with Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank. Thank you very much. I'm so honored to receive it. I was also in charge of this project, and especially for this project, we have some points for this big milestone. One of them is last year, May 2020, the financial law was revised, and Electronic Record Transfer Securities Display Rights Act was added last year. And this year, for the security token issued this time, it's applicable for Electronic Record Transfer Security Display Rights Act, the first time in Japan as project. And the security token with credit rating was also very first time in Japan. And the content itself, securities was tokenized, also happened first time in Japan. So due to this success, we received this award and was evaluated so highly. And I was also impressed and delighted to be part of this project. And I continuously would like to make effort to vitalize this industry in Japan. Thank you very much once again.
Well, congratulations to Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank. Great job. Well done. I'd like to now introduce Benjamin Tsai again, the CEO of Wave Financial, to introduce the winner of the Ecosystem Award.
Congratulations to Magic Circle Technology, a provider of STO solutions, for their Ecosystem Excellence Award, as they're one of the only companies in Asia to provide issuance solutions along with technical support in the STO space. They've also assisted several companies in the issuance of security tokens in the United States.
Hi everyone, I'm Dora, CEO for Magic Circle. Thank you for all the great members of TADS. We are very happy to get this award. In past 3 years, Magic Circle working on security token industry, we provided a unique solution for the traders, issuers, and audience. This is the first time we don't need to spend more time to explain what a security token is. It means more and more institutional and retail investors already recognize security token and the future. We truly believe that security token will change the capital market because we can provide a unique experience for all the investors, from the peer-to-peer transaction, 24-hour trading, cross-border trading, and even we can trade with crypto. This is require a totally different infrastructure to support those new features and functions. So that is Magic Circle did, and we are doing to develop more and more new features. We learned a lot from the crypto world. So we provided DID system. It's a decentralized identity system, wallet, peer-to-peer transferring protocol, and on-chain compliance module to ensure all the process to fully compliant. We also cooperate with young developer community, investor community, and institute. We are building a investor network cover all Asian region. We expect in the near future, we cooperate the secure token industry people to create a magic, amazing secure token market. Thank you.
Congratulations to Magic Circle Technology. Fantastic job. So both of the winners will go on to the finals in Hong Kong in November. So congratulations, really well done. We also have the main TADS Awards in November this year. So those companies that would like to participate, you can nominate yourselves or have someone nominate you. This concludes the Tokyo version of the TADS Awards, mid-year awards this year. So please look at our website for further information. Thank you again to our sponsor, Wave Financial, to our co-organizers, to our strategic partners, and most of all, thank you for making the time to be with us this evening. Thank you. Good night.